and welcome to Curt's Corner. A couple of things before we get started. Now, my wife pointed out that if it's Curt's Corner, why do we have a round table? Well, that's because off and on during my life, I have felt like my back was to the wall, so I think the title fits. Today, my guest is downtown Julie Brown Petre. But first, I need to recognize several new sponsors, highlighted by Lewis and Clark County Commissioner Andy Hunthausen. Back in the day, Andy was a fairly decent pole vaulter for Helena High. Leading up to his first term with the County Commission in 2006, Andy's resume included educator, counselor, and youth advocate and facilitator. I've actually written about Andy's dad's World War II service. He can be reached at andy@hunthausen.org or 406-461-2922. County Commissioner Andy Hunthausen, valued leadership, trusted experience. Thanks, Andy. Also have a new individual sponsor, Curt's Corner, and that is my buddy Tim Ferreter. Tim was a standout football player for the Bengals and on the baseball diamond with the Helena Senators, and he went on to a fine career in the city fast-pitch softball leagues. And Tim still plays a pretty mean game of racquetball, too. So thanks, Tim. And we have an anonymous sponsor as well that I can't overlook. He was one of those prep educators that left a lasting impression on an underachieving kid from the wrong side of the tracks 55 years ago. He knows who he is, and I'm very thankful and very proud to have his support. Also, before we start, Dean Retz was scheduled to appear with Julie, but he had a medical emergency this morning. So hoping for the best for Dean's quick and successful recovery, and we're going to get him on the show ASAP. So let's get started. Julie Brown Petre achieved a then Helena High record of 6 all-state seasons, 4 in track and field, and 2 in basketball, from 1988 to 1992. She left the school with 8 combined state championships, 3 individual track, 3 track relays, and 2 basketball team titles, and set 4 combined Lady Bengal records in those 2 sports. Julie then took her downtown Julie Brown Hoops show to college, where she became a 2-time All-Big Sky Conference selectee and garnered a berth on the conference all-tournament team. Among her multitude of accolades, Julie has the distinction of being the first local Montana Gatorade Basketball Player of the Year, and is also one half of possibly the first mother-son combo to earn HHS's Pat Donovan Award. My connections to Julie go back to her basketball championship teams. I never forget coming back from Great Falls when you guys won the second one. Mm-hmm. And there was a convoy of vehicles. This was late at night. There was a convoy of vehicles coming back on Highway 15 from Great Falls back to Helena. It's just like the Field of Dreams. It seemed like there was a mile of cars in front of us, so a mile of taillights in front of us, a mile of headlights behind us. I might be exaggerating, but going through, it was quite a sight and quite a feeling. And going through Wolf Creek Canyon, it was like one of those Native American snake dances with the taillights. Another connection we have is their freshman coach was Jim Gross. Jim worked with my dad at a gas station back in the 50s, and he was also one of my high school teachers. And through my later endeavors, I became good friends with Julie's teammates, a couple of Julie's teammates, Cindy Lockett and Heather Heater Lewis McNeil. During Julie's time at HCTV, another connection was there was a quintet of Bengal wrestlers that were all 5 of them were top 2 state placers. And one of those guys was my late nephew, Odin Sinnes. Julie was telling me that her and her friends used to go to the wrestling matches and cheer on those guys. They had a combined 1-loss record that was off the charts. And besides Julie and her friends, there was another crazy uncle up in the stands singing the Norseman God chant whenever Odie wrestled. He will remain nameless. And sport, another connection with myself and Julie. Sports reporting was actually my 3rd or 4th or maybe even 5th profession. So I missed all of the siblings except their caboose. And I remember getting a call from Reverend George Harper, whom the jungle's court is named after. Curt, he says, I get this call. Now you got to write about Jessie Brown. She's the last one of the Brown siblings coming through, and she's going to graduate this year. So of course I did. And last but not least, I've been good friends with Julie's aunt and uncle, Jethro and MP King, for almost 50 years. I also know her Aunt Paula and her Uncle Josh, and I've gotten to know her dad pretty well on the activity circuit. And plus, I actually did cover her niece, Caitlin McKay's running for HHS. Right. So, welcome to the show, Julie.
Thanks for having me, Curt.
Yeah, glad you're here. So let's start out with just kind of some background stuff. First of all, tell me your mom and dad's name, and then list all of your siblings in chronological order, please.
So my parents are David and Margaret Brown, and then my siblings are 6 of us in total. My older sister and brother are twins, Dan and Jenny, and then me, and then my brother Peter, and then Andy, and then Jesse. Okay, good memory.
We have kind of a different format for this show. We're gonna do her track first, even though it was later in the season. Well, track is fresh on her mind, and she just got to witness her son win a state championship. So Julie was a 4-year track letterman. As a freshman, she captured the state 1600 run title with PR of 5:16.84 and placed runner-up in the 800, being nipped at the line by just 1/100th of a second. Mm-hmm. The next year in 1990, Julie actually swept those 2 middle distant races, the 800 and 16 crowns. She had a PR of 2:19.8 in the half mile, and she helped the winning 1600 relay to an HHS record of 4 minutes, 0.05 seconds. So Julie, tell me what it was like winning that first title as a freshman. And I'm pretty sure you were the underdog.
Pretty sure.
And then, and just missing the 800 crown. And then sweeping both of those championships the next year as a sophomore.
So I remember specifically when I was a freshman, I don't think I ever won a mile race until the state meet. And my training partner at the time was Jeannie Bertram, who was a senior when I was a freshman, and we pushed each other. She was a wonderful teammate. In fact, our entire distance team was great, but we pushed each other the whole
D crew.
year. Yeah. And so I think, part of it was just our belief in each other. And I remember thinking I was a little bit more of a sprinter, probably, a little bit more of a 400 runner. And I remember thinking at the end, man, I think I can win this. Like we were close the whole time, and then actually pulling ahead at the last 100, that was pretty exciting for me. And then
so your kick got her.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And we both beat the previous champion. Her name was Sarah Moore. She was from Flathead, and at the time we both beat her. After I passed her, then Jeannie did too, and she ended up getting second, and then won the 3200 title the next day. But it was a really fun moment for both of us, just to beat her, because she had been kind of the the front runner all season. And
Right,
then the
and
next
I was just looking at a picture in the paper from back then, and there was the three of you were running that race, and all three of you won a state championship at a different distance.
Right, exactly. And then the
And-
next day, Jeannie won the 3,200,
Okay.
and Sarah won the 800. And she
She's
beat
the
me
one
by,
that got you by
Sarah
100.
won, yeah.
Oh.
And I did
So-
the same kind of tactic. I just didn't quite get her at the finish line.
Well, that had
but
to be a photo finish. I mean,
It was. They
Did
had
it
it in
take a
the-
while?
They
Yeah.
did. They had it in the Billings paper actually, and they had the picture of us finishing.
Wow.
So wish I could find that. But that was, yeah, those were special moments for us. And then
Yeah.
Jeannie and I were both on the 1600 relay. I was an alternate because I was a freshman, and I can remember actually after she finished the 3,200 and she won, and I told her, I was like, Jeannie, you're never going to get this back. You're a senior. You need, you need to run. And I have lots of time left to run this relay.
Oh,
And so it was
yeah.
a pretty special moment because they ended up winning that year as well. My freshman year, they won, and Jeannie was part of it. So that was pretty special for her to get to do that. So,
Right.
yeah.
Cool. Okay, so then the next year you swept.
So then the next year, obviously a lot more pressure to
Oh, yeah.
repeat and to compete.
It's
and
harder to get on top.
It's harder
than
to
stay
get
on
and stay.
top.
It's harder
Yeah.
to stay on top. That's for
Yeah.
sure. And I remember, in fact, Kelly Gilbert and I were just talking about. He still obviously coaches the distance team at Helena High, and we were just talking about the state meet in Missoula that sophomore year. And the bus actually forgot me at the hotel, and we had to take a taxi to
Oh.
to Dornblazer
Wow.
before the race. And one of my other teammates was with me at the hotel, and we were just warming up, getting ready, and we literally pulled up to Dornblazer with like 25 minutes before the race.
Wow.
So it was probably good in hindsight. It took my mind off the race. I was probably more worried about getting there than I was about
Yeah,
running.
yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, definitely more pressure, but still pretty. Every time you can win one of those, it's pretty special for
Right.
sure.
Yeah.
And then we ended up winning the relay that year too. I ended up being on the relay obviously that year too, and
Right.
Heather Lewis was part of that. She was, as we
Yeah.
all know, fabulous.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was pretty special.
Was that the year she won? She swept 100 through 400.
No, I can't remember if that was her junior or her senior year. I can't remember specifically. I'd have to look back,
Yeah.
but she was.
I think it was her sophomore year.
Yeah, she
You're
was-
the same grade.
No,
Same
she
class?
was 1 year behind me, so
Oh, okay,
that would have been
yeah.
my junior year then, and her sophomore year.
Yeah.
So
I think
Yeah.
that was the year she did it. Yeah.
yeah, that would have. Yeah, she was.
Yeah.
Was pretty fabulous.
Yep. Heater.
Yes.
So your junior year, you swept the same 3 races at the Score de Cam Invite, and you were named the meet's outstanding performer. And at Crosstown, you again swept those same 3 races, and you set 2 meet records in that meet, city records, 800 run and the 1600 relay. You then helped the Lady Bengals to a state runner-up trophy, and you guys were only 3 points shy of the title. You finished second and third in the half mile and the mile, respectively, and won the championship long relay. So you talked about Jeannie as being an influence. Who else had the most influence on your track career, would you say?
I would definitely say all of my coaches. Kelly Gilbert, Linda Paul was one of our coaches. Larry Newell, he's from Billings, and he was one of our coaches as well. But then some of the other younger girls that I ran with, and I ran with Leanne Lorenz and Amy Opitz, and then Lori Ashley. She was younger than me too. We had just a really great group of girls that pushed each other.
Yeah.
But then also in my grade too was Sarah Dudley. She was another great friend of mine, and she was a sprinter and a jumper, and we all just really wanted to be there for each other, I guess, and to push each other to be better. And
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, all of your teammates and your coaches are really what helps you get through it. Track's somewhat of a lonely sport at times,
Right.
but having
Exactly.
great teammates and coaches, I think, helps kind of make it more of a team aspect. And I think all of us ran the mile relay together too. So Heather and Sarah ran it with me as well, and we ran it all together all 4 of those years. So
Right.
those were pretty special memories for me.
Right. Well, that was actually my next question was how do you motivate? How do you stay motivated to run that, those grueling the middle distance and distance runners that, like you say, are lonely.
Yeah.
You have to have self-motivation.
You definitely, yep, you definitely have to have self-motivation, but it also helps to have, you know, teammates in your corner that run with you day in and day out. And
Right.
I didn't play a winter sport because at that time basketball was in the fall. So we,
Yeah, volleyball was the
Yep.
winter sport.
yeah, volleyball was the winter sport, and I did it 1 year and then ended up, you know, not doing it the rest of the time. And I kind of focused on my studies and just getting and being in shape. And we would go to some winter meets, winter track meets, just to kind of.
Oh,
But
yeah.
yeah, definitely your teammates are out there with you, because that's about, like you said, those
All in you're all
staying in shape, the distance.
You're all in the,
You're
all in the same boat. Why
You're
are
all
we
in the same
Why are
boat.
we doing this to ourselves? Okay,
exactly.
excuse me. As your senior year, you captured your 4th consecutive intra-city half-mile championship, and later helped the team to a 3rd place finish at state, medaling in both middle distance runs. And you garnered your 3rd successive 1600 relay gold medal, while the unit finished undefeated for all 3 years that you guys ran together. You finished your career tying Casey Chilton Malloy's HHS career record of 11 all-state medals, and you set a new school mark of 55.5 points scored at the state meets. So let's talk about that. We touched on it a little bit, that 1600 relay streak. I have down your different teammates over the years. We mentioned most of them: Sarah Dudley, Willow Bellwood, Danny Williams, Jolene Trolia, Heather Lewis. So I went behind your back and I got a quote from Heater. And here's what she said, quote, "What I remember about Julie when she was on the track is that she took the lead and rarely gave it up. As a 4x400 relay teammate, she was always dependable and, of course, very fast," unquote. So when we talked earlier, you said that the team aspect of the relay is kind of what helped keep you going, because it was more of a esprit de corps between teammates.
Right.
So was there pressure on you guys going undefeated for 3 years, or were you just having fun? Just one race at a time?
Well, I specifically remember Larry, he was our head coach at the time, and I was the 3rd leg, and I remember him saying, "The only thing you have to do is be in the lead."
Yeah, please, please be in the lead.
When you give the baton to Heather, because I knew
Oh,
no
yeah.
one would beat her, right? So,
Of course,
I mean,
yeah.
honestly, I guess Sarah was always our first runner, because she was an open 400 runner. So I remember really not ever, I honestly don't ever remember not thinking and believing that we would win. I guess I had so much trust in our team. And, you know, honestly, I think they won the mile relay before I got there too. They had several consecutive championships before I got there. So it was definitely
did.
something of,
Yeah.
like, the expectation was that we would not lose.
Yeah.
So I think honestly that mindset of really pushed and empowered us to really succeed. And I think, yeah, we were able to just help each other out and push each other. And
Right,
but yeah, like I said, I had trust in my teammates.
right. Yeah.
But
I think I read you won. I'm not sure about after, but that last one that you won was 6 out of 7
yeah,
of the
that doesn't surprise me. Yeah,
of the long relays.
right.
Okay, before we transition into Julie's hoops, a quick thank you to one of our business sponsors, if you don't mind, Exit Realty and Bob Denherter. Phone 406-449-8831, and he's located at Western Premier Helena Great Northern Hotel. Exit Realty, locally owned and internationally strong. Thanks, Bob. Back to our guest. Now, 5'10", 5'10",
Yep.
post player?
Yep.
Okay. What number is that?
What do you mean?
2, 4?
Oh, 4. Yeah.
That's a 4.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry.
I'm an old wrestler. I can't keep track of that. She led the Lady Bengals in rebounding all 3 of her varsity hardcourt seasons. As a sophomore, Julie was selected honorable mention all-conference. In 1990, she set the school field goal accuracy record for a game, making 9 out of 9 field goals against Great Falls. She actually made all 3 of her free throws for 20. She didn't miss a shot. She made 21 points. That record still stands, by the way. You also led the team, you held the team mark of 8 steals in a game. At state, the Lady Bengals defeated Flathead High 57-41 in the Chipper, spearheaded by Julie's 21 points, 15 rebounds, and 6 steals. Her senior year, in a playoff win over Capital, she poured in a career-high 25 points. Helena then retained its title, 79-50 over CM Russell, the game we were talking about. Julie fired in 24 points. She speared 8 boards and pirated 7 steals. She repeated her bursts on the 1991 All-Tourney squad and All-State teams, while pacing the Lady Bengals in scoring at 3.2 points per game, rebounding 8.1 average, and steals with 94 swipes. For her career, Julie netted 808 points and collected 557 boards, which ranked number 3 and number 2 on the school's lists. And her 253 lifetime steals still stand second. So during Julie's 3 varsity seasons, the Lady Bengals won 2 state titles and placed 4th. The last 2 years, they went 43-4. They won 43 of 47 games. So Julie, talk about some of the more. I know there's a lot of ingredients to that kind of success, but talk about some of the more important mixtures to make up that kind of dynasty.
Well, I think we talked about it the other day, but obviously there's a number of different things. The big thing was our coach. You know, Steve was a great motivator of us. Steve Keller was our coach, and he never, I think, let us get ahead of ourselves. He always took one game at a time. He was always prepared, and we talked earlier about how he was always doing scouting reports, and we'd have a game plan for every game. And
game films?
Yep, game film. And I think he also understood each one of us as players individually, and then how we could be better as teams. And some of the girls I'd started playing with, I think, in middle school. So Cindy and Tara.
That helps.
Yeah, it helps. And Katie.
Yeah.
And so I think, you know, a lot of that chemistry comes from us just all being super competitive and wanting to win. We didn't. I mean, you know Cindy really well. She does.
Yes, I do.
She never wants to lose. that girl, and she was our point guard, you know, all through the years. And so she, in addition to Amy Mowat, of course, but in my class, you know, she was our point guard. And so, you know, just having those teammates, Tara and Jessie Holtman, and the 5 of us, you know, we have a picture of all 5 of us and made it to the end, you know, as seniors. And I think that was the chemistry that we had together. Yeah. And then just our entire coaching staff too really motivated us and kept us going. I mean, like you said, we didn't have too many losses, so we expected to win a lot. And right. I think we all sort of bought into that and just kept playing for each other. And so it was obviously not something that very many people get to experience. So it was pretty. Right. When I look back upon it, I realized how lucky we truly were, and so that was pretty special.
Pretty special. You guys were fun to watch too.
We were, and honestly, my sister was a year ahead of me in that group of girls too. Amy Mowat and my sister Jen, and Rosie and Shauna Manus, and those girls were all, you know, just real great players, and kind of helped really just guide us, I think, too.
Right. Yeah. Give you something to give you a goal to
for sure
continue on. Yeah.
Yep.
Speaking of Cindy Lockett, I also snuck in a quote from her. Here's what Cindy sent me. Quote, "Downtown Julie Brown is one of the toughest competitors I know. She competed to win no matter what. She strived," you were trying to keep up with Cindy.
That's true. That's what it was.
"She strived to dominate the wing and post position. She was strong, accurate, and a determined scorer. She was our go-to. Julie could be double or triple teamed and would still make points either off a bucket or a free throw. She had great moves to the basket and under the basket. She wanted the ball in her hands because that was the kind of leader she was. And Cindy adds, Julie was the only player on our team that could get away with calling Coach Keller by his first name, Steve. She liked to do that sometimes just to get his goat. So, here's my perspective along that same theme. When that 1990 team was inducted into our Helena Sports Hall of Fame, and Coach Keller got up to give the acceptance speech, he had a little comment about each player. And when it came to Julie's turn, Coach Keller said, quote, Julie Brown and I had a love-hate relationship. I loved her and she hated me, unquote.
Oh, that's funny.
So what are your thoughts on that relationship between you and Coach Keller?
I think Steve really knew at the heart of how to get to me. Not, and I don't mean that in a way
in a positive way.
In a very positive way.
Motivate,
I think we had lots of conversations about, what my potential was and what I'd always wanted to go play college basketball, and I think he knew that if he pushed me, I was one of those kids that he could push me and I would respond, and I would and I was competitive. Like Cindy said, I just wanted to win and I wanted to compete, and it was something I was very passionate about, and I bought into his style of coaching, and I think it was positive in a way that there was a number of underclassmen too that really kind of responded to, and I would not just say me, but like our leaders, our senior leadership. It was really important, I think, that we got those younger girls to buy into that, and how hard. I mean, Steve worked us hard. He would say this, and I even tell my kids this too. We started pressing the minute the game started, and we never let up. And practices were brutal, and Cindy would tell you that too.
Intense.
Yeah, they were, and so he wanted us to be in the best shape that we possibly could be, because we had to play like that the entire game. And so, you talked about some different keys, but I also think too you had to have the talent, and we definitely had a lot of talented girls that.
Got to have the horses.
Yep, and I think he just knew how to motivate us. And
And you two could needle each other.
Yeah, that's for sure. We needled each other a long time.
Do you still do that? Do you still do that? Okay.
I still call him occasionally.
Cool.
And I congratulated him, of course, on his retirement. And he was a big part of our lives and a big part of our success. And it was wonderful to see him retire, although he didn't stay retired very long.
No, he didn't. He's right back at it.
Exactly. But that's what he loves. And I would say, he definitely knows how to motivate kids and to get the most out of them. And that's what he definitely did for me, for sure.
Yeah. I had a guy tell me one time, if you cut Steve Keller's wrists open, basketballs would come squirting out.
That might be true. That might be true.
Okay, next up, let's show the folks your Gatorade Player of the Year chart, or plaque. If you could hold that up for a minute. So you were the first local gal to win that award. The Gatorade Player of the Year in Montana was not that old. I think it started in the early to mid 80s. And you were the first one to win it, and it took another locally, and it took another 26 years for another gal to win it, and that was Jamie Pickens, and she did it back to back in 2018 and 19. Then in 21, Capital's Danny Barch won it. So that's another star on the wall for you, Julie.
Thank you.
And then let's talk about the Pat Donovan Award for a minute. What's your memory of when you earned that award, that honor? And then I just found out a few minutes ago that your brother Andy also won it a few years later, a couple years later. And then 31 years later, your son Cur3t's Petre won it. And I'm sure that state long jump championship didn't hurt his resume. Right. So what are your thoughts on your memories of receiving that award at the time, and then almost reliving it 31 years later, standing next to you and your husband Stan and your mom and dad when your son got the award?
So I was very honored, obviously, at the time. I still have a picture. They presented it to me at the end of the year track banquet. So all my coaches were there. So that was a pretty special moment for me. It was not I think it was only the second year that they had awarded that. And I think when you're younger, you maybe don't understand the significance quite, of some of those things. So it was pretty special because it not only was it, for sports, but it was also for the other things you do, leadership and academics and all those things that I was really hard, that my parents really supported me in and really pushed me to be an all-around person, not just doing one thing, but also focusing on other things like giving back to your school and to your community. So I think, looking back, it was a pretty special moment for me.
Yeah.
And then I do remember when my brother won it, and that was obviously a proud moment for my parents as well, and the same thing. And then obviously as a parent, when my son won it, we were really surprised, and we were super proud of him. And same thing, right? You want them. He's a great student. He's a great leader. He's done a lot of those things that will carry over into his life, not just the athletics part of it. So I think it's truly an honor as a parent. I think it's probably even more special as a parent because you get to see how excited he was and how proud he is of that accomplishment. So that was pretty special for my husband and I and our family. So.
Yeah. Although it is harder to watch him compete when you're in the stands and can't do anything.
I say that to him all the time. I think it was harder to watch you do anything than it was for me to ever play in a Cat Grizz game. So, which is kind of unheard of, but it is, as a parent, you can't go out there and do it for him. So it's been pretty special for us.
Right. So let's go to your college hoops. Montana State University from 1993 to 97. 4-year player for the Lady Bobcats. You were selected first team All Big Sky Conference as a junior. And again, honorable mention, your final season, which you were actually so much better that last year, but you got demoted, but that's politics, I guess.
Yeah, sometimes.
Your best year was that final season. You averaged 14 points, 7.6 rebounds, 3 assists, and 2.8 steals per game. Oh, and you were the defensive player, the team's defensive player of the year both those last 2 years. So let's hold up your all-tourney plaque, if you would, for a minute. That same year, 1997, you were selected to the Big Sky All-Tournament team. And you finished your career as a member of MSU's 500 Rebound Club. And your 75 steals in 96 still ranks number 10 on the Lady Cats season list. So, Julie, if you relate, if you will, some of your favorite memories of college basketball.
Well, college is quite a bit different than high school. I was super thankful for the opportunity. I met some really great teammates that are lifelong friends. It was always a dream of mine to play Division I basketball, and so I think to be able to realize that dream, and I had 2 different coaches while I was there. Judy Spolstra, who went on to coach at Oregon State, and then Tracy Sheehan, who is obviously no longer coaching. They've had quite a few coaches since I was there. I say some of the most memorable times were obviously with my teammates, but when I was a freshman, we won the Big Sky Championship. That was a super fun and memorable time.
Yeah.
When I was a senior, I was kind of telling you the other day, we lost to the Lady Grizz three times by less than 5 points. They were very dominant during the time that I was there. And so, but nonetheless, I really enjoyed my time there. I got a great education, and playing basketball at that level was really kind of a dream come true for me. And it was fun at the end to really get to play. And I was a captain for 2 years, and so it was, and like I said, I met some really neat young women along the way, so that was fun.
And then there was also someone that, an opponent, was it Weber State?
Weber
State. Tell the folks about the gal from Weber State.
So the gal from Weber State is the current Carroll College coach, Rochelle Gardner-Sayers. She became a good friend of mine. I redshirted my first year, and she did not, so we ended up playing 3 years against each other. And like I said, kind of became great friends. And then when she moved here to coach at Carroll, she asked me to be a coach. So I was an assistant coach for a couple years, and we
Oh,
remain
cool.
friends to this day. Yeah,
Yeah.
there again, fierce competitor, as we all know. You know, she's
Yeah.
brought some great kids in and had wonderful success at Carroll. So it's been fabulous to get to watch her and to know her as an adult, and also just to be proud of, the program that she's put together over
Right.
there.
And
pretty
she's
special.
a Steelers fan.
And she's
And
Yeah.
let's talk about some of those. You sent me some text about that Lady Grizz rivalry, those close losses, and
yeah.
they just seem to have your number.
They did.
The
They,
stars were
yep. They had
not
a
aligned.
number of wonderful players. In fact, Greta lives here in town. So
Mm-hmm.
we don't talk too much about basketball, but yeah, they had some wonderful players there, and we they seem to have our number every year. Although I think it's obviously the tide has swayed a little bit, but I do, during that time, Robin Selvig was obviously a fabulous coach, and but those are pretty bitter rivalries during.
Well, you were
when you're playing and you're in the middle of that, those are pretty
and
fierce.
you were evenly matched. I mean,
Yeah,
they were
for
close
sure.
games.
Yep, and those are things you don't forget, because like I said, I was a pretty fierce competitor, so I didn't like to lose very often.
Right.
And having success in high school, you get pretty spoiled, right? You don't.
Yeah.
Not too many people get to have a couple losses in their high school season,
Right.
and end up at the end where you win, because there's only one team that gets to win at the end. So
Yeah.
but it was looking back, those are pretty great memories of actually being part of all that.
So were you runner-up? Were you conference runners-up then?
Yep. So my senior year we were, let's see, I think my sophomore year we were again. Junior year we lost in the semifinals. Our post player went down with an ACL tear.
Oh, okay.
So we ended up losing that Friday night, and then Saturday night, obviously we didn't play for we were runner-up a couple years, which is.
Well, some people do remember who took second.
I certainly remember.
Okay, let's see. We're heading down the home stretch. We're heading for the wire, Julie. Would like you to tell the folks about your profession, and then tell us your husband, about your husband's name and your children's names, and yeah.
So my husband's Petre. My kids are Coulter Petre. He's a just graduated senior. I have Carter Petre. He's going to be a junior. Call Petre. He'll be an 8th grader. And then Lane. He's our youngest, and he'll be in 5th grade.
Okay.
I'm a clinical pharmacist at the hospital. I've been there almost 20 years now. And I work
Goes
mostly.
fast.
Yep. I mostly work in the ICU and the ER. But it's been a wonderful profession. So after I graduated from Montana State, I went to U of M and got my doctorate in pharmacy, and then went on and did a residency out in Spokane, Washington, and then came back to St. Pete. So, yeah.
So you were on the front lines of the COVID war.
Yeah, yep. It's hard to believe it's been several years now, but those were intense and scary times for a lot of people. And I think one of the biggest things that we kind of learned from that is how much we've leaned on our coworkers. And it was also kind of it was an interesting time. We learned a lot about medicine at that time too. So I mean, looking back, we'll look back in 5 to 10 years and see how quickly medicine changed and how we treated people, and ultimately got to save people, which was scary at first, because there was a lot of people that didn't survive it.
That didn't
so
make, Well, thanks for what you and the rest of your profession did during that time. Now, would you, we talked about this, would you spell your son Cole's name?
Call, C-O-L-L.
Call, C-O-L-L,
Yep.
and tell the folks the origin of that name.
So,
Because as a sports writer, I've seen a lot of names, right? I've never seen that name before.
So my grandma, Mary Bodette, it was one of her family names. Collier was one of her family names, and
You shortened it?
we shortened it, to Call. And a lot of people mispronounce it, misspell it, but
Yeah,
he's definitely a unique kid. But that, so that's
and then let's talk about the Laura Ingalls Wilder connection that you guys have.
Apparently, somewhere.
Little
in our
house on
history.
the prairie.
Yeah, you probably know a little bit more than I do, but
Yeah,
she's
it-
definitely the Ingalls family. That's my grandma's, actually Mary's, her parents were Ingalls, and so
Yeah,
distant relatives were Laura Ingalls for
yeah,
sure. So
yeah, okay. Well, I think just in closing, what's it been like to be involved with your, probably just like reliving your youth, be involved with your kids' sports, the coaching, the support, just like you, it's like it's recycling
it is
the family
and I think Helena.
tradition.
Yeah, I think at Helena High it's been super fun. I know we talked about what were keys to some of the success, and I think really it's a number of things. Not only is it your coaches and your teammates, but it's just the family support that you have, your parents and your other team members' parents, and it really becomes a big family, an extended family. And I think to be able to give that to my kids has been fun for us, and and I'm super thankful that that we were able to move back here and our kids could kind of have been able to experience some of their own success, and that's been really fun to be watching on the sidelines from, for sure.
Great.
Yep.
Well, thanks for being here,
Thanks,
Julie.
Curt.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome.
It's been fascinating.
Thanks.
Okay, well, that wraps it up, folks. I want to give a closing shout out to another business sponsor, Brecky Excavating and Construction. Call Ray Brecky at 406-443-8782 or 406-439-5721. Thanks, Ray. Also, a couple of individual sponsors, Ken Nettleton and Pat Murphy. Thanks, guys. If you'd like to be a sponsor of Curt's Corner, call or text me at 406-594-2878, or remember that, it's 406-HEY-CURT. And I actually learned that from Dean Retz. Or send an email to CURT52SYNNESS@gmail.com. And so until next time, Shaka da Kainting, and with apologies to Jackie Gleason, a little traveling music genie, if you please.